Welcome to our panel today, Strategic Positions for Hispanic Leaders. As we kick off a new administration and head into a new year, we start asking the questions, what are some of the strategic positions we should target for Hispanics within the transition team? What about our corporate America? What about our corporate boards? Today, we have the perfect two leaders of amazing organizations with us to be able to talk through some of those questions and give us some great answers. Sindy Benavides, the CEO of LULAC, the League of United Latin American Citizens, and Esther Aguilera, the president and CEO of LCDA, the Latino Corporate Directors Association. My name is Damian Rivera. I'm the CEO of ALPFA, the Association of Latino Professionals for America. We are going to jump right into it today. Thank you both for joining us. I'm going to jump in right with the first question. So with an important year coming up, what are some of the biggest challenges and areas of action for the Hispanic community? What do you think are some of the things that we should focus on? Sindy, I'll start off with you, then we'll shift over to Esther.
Damian, thank you so much for that question and for the energy that you're bringing to the table. I'm going to try to sneak in my cafecito in between sound bites here. But I would mention that as we head into 2021, there's so much that is on our minds. The truth is that, 2020 has been a year that has hit the Latino community in a very, very difficult way. We know that there's so massive unemployment that is occurring and that those numbers continue to go up. And I will tell you that as LULAC, as the oldest and largest national Latino civil rights organization in the country, what we focused on in 2020 is COVID-19 awareness and education, but also making sure that there's hunger and financial relief for our community. And I will tell you, Damian, just to put this in context, when we've been doing a lot of this relief efforts, we've had mothers come up to us who are literally making that decision if they're able to buy flour, beans, and cooking oil versus being able to buy laundry detergent. And so I want to make sure that we also understand that our community is suffering at the moment. And right now, the biggest role that we can play is making sure that we advocate for policies at the federal level and at the state level that includes all of our communities, including vulnerable communities who may be left behind, but also that we continue to speak up, that we continue to utilize our power as the Latino community that we are, 60 million strong, as we go into the future. And one of those key issue areas is the issue of representation and making sure that there is nothing about us without us, that we are represented at all levels as these important conversations are taking place.
Awesome, beautiful. Thank you for that, Sindy. Esther, what are some of your thoughts?
Thank you. Well, great. It's great to be with you, Damian and Sindy, both, and for this forum. Look, most of my career, I've focused on preparing our community to take positions of leadership, whether it was working on Capitol Hill, working with to develop interns, fellows to take positions, whether it be in nonprofits, government, or the administration. Today, I work on increasing our numbers and representations at the highest levels of corporate America at the decision-making table. I will echo what Sindy said, is that representation matters. We need our voice and a seat at the most important tables in this country. And we are coming out of a difficult year in 2020, and I think 2021 is really going to position our community to elevate the role that we play, but also our contributions are going to be massive for the country in every aspect of what we do. So right now, our numbers in most of these areas, Latinos are severely underrepresented. And so we also need to think about how we work differently to ensure that we have that seat at the table. I look forward to talking more about those strategies with you, but representation matters and Latinos matter for the future of this country.
Yeah, Esther, and so I'm going to stick with you for a second there. So to the point of representation matters, LCDA has really been taking charge of the focus on corporate board positions, Latinos within there. Can you tell us a little bit more about what you're seeing out there, and how we should be looking to improve the numbers there? What should companies know about?
Sure. Well, first of all, the boards are accountable to shareholders and building strong companies. Our numbers on corporate boards are very, very low. Among the Russell 3000, the 3,000 public companies in the country, Latinos only hold 2.2% of those board seats. And so the Latino Corporate Directors Association was formed to bring more awareness and really change the paradigm, change the numbers, and give the business case and engage with companies. What we started this year, and actually, is we launched a campaign called Latino Voices for Board Equity, because this was an opportunity to raise our voices to say that this is unacceptable, that Latinos only have 2% of those seats. And I'm happy to share that obviously Damian and Sindy and other key organizations are part of this coalition. And what we're doing a little different is that we need to apply some public pressure to this conversation about leadership in corporate America. Too often in the space, there has been pressure and push to add more gender and women on corporate boards and in senior leadership roles, which is phenomenally needed. But what's happened is that Latinas have been left out and not part of the mix. We are seeing a shift in a focus to add race ethnicity to boards, to leadership positions. And again, what we're doing with the Latino Voices campaign is making sure that the community leaders and the community is speaking up that this matters, that Latinos have a lot to contribute. On the other side, we're also, having the conversations about why this is important. Latinos are, as Cindy said, we're 60 million strong, but we are also the consumer base and the employee base of corporate America. And boards benefit by having experienced Latino executives serve on the board to contribute and to have a perspective that is different, that adds to the conversation and adds to the business performance and the bottom line. So it's a win-win. Yet we need to raise our voices and make sure that we elevate the profiles of our community for these roles.
Yeah, no, I love that. And so what I love about the two of you being on this is we get to see all sides of the equation, right? So it's not just the corporate side, it's also from a government side. What are all the things that are happening from a civic and corporate? So Cindy, I'd love to go back over to you. What are some of your thoughts from a representation standpoint? We have a new administration coming in. Just curious some of what your thoughts are on what you're seeing in the new administration, some of the seats that have been filled, and any comments you have around that.
Thank you, Damian, for that question. And before responding, just, a huge shout out to Esther for her leadership and bringing aid of the most strong and large national Latino organizations together for Latino voices. And, what I will tell you is that when we think of the Latino community, it's so important that we understand that the Latino GDP is almost a quarter of the total US GDP growth. We are the economic engine of this country. We are the workforce now and the future workforce. And in just 30 years, Latinos will be 130 million strong. And what that means is that 1 in 3 Americans will be of Latino ancestry. So, let's understand our power and make sure that we ourselves are raising our voices and advocating for our communities, because if we stay silent, that means that this is not an issue. And this is where we need everyone who is listening to beat the same drumbeat, to make sure that folks understand that the Latino community demand representation. We are close to 20% of the US population today, and certainly, we will continue to grow every single year past 2050. When we look at representation, Damian, and again, the hashtag that I use as a millennial is nothing about us without us, but also we can't be what we can't see. And the truth is, we want to see in the very near future a Latino US president sitting in the White House. I know that the Biden-Harris transition team is working to make sure that there's diversity at all levels of the cabinet. We absolutely, commend the Biden-Harris transition team for naming Ali Mayorkas to DHS. And we have formally taken a position along with other national organizations that we would like to see 20% representation in the cabinet level. The magic number is 5. 5 cabinet level positions. We're asking that 5 of them be of Latino origin, individuals who have an outstanding track record of working in the community. And I would say we certainly are focusing on supporting California Attorney General Javier Becerra for our U.S. Attorney General. We're also looking at Lily Escosen Garcia, Secretary of Education, and looking at Governor Grisham for Secretary of Health and Human Resources. So, very specific actions. We have to, put this on social media. We have to write letters. We have to make sure that we have Latinos represented in key areas. And again, when we look at equity in America, so many of these issues are impacting Latinos and communities of color disproportionately. We want to make sure that Latinos are represented across the board, and that the strongest message that the Biden-Harris team can send is making sure that our communities, Latino, African American, Native American, women, that we are represented at the levels of our community.
Sindy, along with what you're saying, I think the other wake-up call that we have seen is clearly elections matter. And who is in office and who is running our government and representing the future of this country matters. The positions that you just talked about are immensely important, influence so much of the daily lives of Americans. And we are such a huge part of it. That is some of the key positions that need to be in there. And I also want to congratulate the Latino community in California. This is another example of how we can be working differently and raising our voices. As you know, the governor of California is in a position to name the senator to replace now our vice president-elect, Kamala Harris. And, there was every community was vying and making the case for why they should have a representative in that seat. And the Latino community in California organized press conferences from every region of the country, multiple press conferences all at once, to raise the voice to say, Latinos are 40% of California. Historically, Latinos were in California before it was part of the United States, have been the fabric to grow the amazing country. By the way, 40% is in California of Latinos is larger than any other group. It would be historic. And what I loved was the constant and consistent message that really brought everyone together. We still are wait and see, and hopefully we'll hear news soon. But it's an example of the kinds of ways that we need to be working together. The other example of some concrete strategies, and I will go back and share with you what we're doing with this Latino Voices campaign. It's a 3-tiered campaign. 1, we want to see the number of Latinos on corporate boards triple. 2, we're sending letters and engaging companies and really showing them that there is an ample supply and identifying, ample candidates for consideration. And 3, we're keeping a scorecard. We're keeping a scorecard to track in California and nationwide who's being placed, how Latinos are doing so we can continue to keep this issue front and center. The third important element, so the research and the tracking matters, but the most important element is the raising awareness and the media and amplification. As Latinos, we haven't leveraged the media and really using it as a tool that helps to apply pressure so that we're not invisible. So I think for 2021, this is another key tool that I would love to see more of us use. Let's put the numbers out there. Let's put our faces out there, showcase. By the way, I'm going to give a shout out to Damian. What Damian is doing at ALPFA with the 50 most powerful Latinas is he's putting a face to the amazing talent of Latinas. The more that we are showcasing ourselves and putting ourselves out in the limelight and in communication circles, we can't be invisible on any sphere. But it's up to us to make ourselves visible. We can't wait for others to invite us to make our case and to be visible. We need to do that for ourselves.
Yeah, no, I love that, Esther. So as we start getting ready, we have about 7 minutes or so left in our conversation here. We've talked a lot about kind of what's been happening out there in the world, the Latino community, what you all have been doing within your organizations to be able to help make movements happen, using our voices. So to the point of using our voices, Sindy, I'll start with you, and then Esther, I'll come back to you. What should the people that are watching this do to continue to use their voices, to continue to be able to create change and make change happen? Sindy, I'll start over with you, and then Esther, go over to you.
Thank you, Damian, for that question. And what I would say is take your power back. Oftentimes, as Latinos, as Latinas, maybe as younger generations, we give our power away, not understanding that our voices can be so powerful. And I'll give you an example. LULAC now for several years has been calling that Fort Hood be renamed after Master Sergeant Roy Benavides. You know, an absolute hero who has won the Medal of Honor, someone who suffered 37 wounds, serving his country and saving his patriots, his fellow colleagues, while in combat. And so we are seeing traction now on Capitol Hill in terms of making sure that bases that have Confederate names are renamed. And, you know, part of it, Damian, is acknowledging that we have some work to do in America, that there is massive inequity that still exists, that there's still massive misrepresentation and underrepresentation of our communities, and that really it will be up to us, whether as individuals, as part of communities, as part of organizations, that we make this a priority. And again, if we are silent, there is no movement. This is not an issue. And we have to understand the numbers. We have to know what our power is. And the truth is that we will continue growing. And to Esther's point, every 30 seconds, a Latino in the US is turning 18. Every 30 seconds. And we know that in this past election, the Latino community, as well as other communities, worked hand in hand in different states to get the candidate elected, whether it was New Mexico or Arizona or Florida or other states. We knew that it took all of us to get there, but I also want to point out that I am so proud that our Latino community turned out in record numbers. And what that means is that we are paying attention. What that means is that we are ready to hold some people accountable if they don't do their job. What that means is through the work of Latino voices that we are looking at what companies are doing, companies who target the Latino community, profit from the Latino community, but have no representation on their corporate boards is today unacceptable. And so we want to make sure that folks are absolutely completamente despiertos. And I would just challenge our community, right? Like the next time that you're watching traditional cable TV or listen to your podcast or Spotify, listen to the companies who are marketing to you and then Google them and see who sits on their boards and absolutely be that person that sends that message, call them out on social media. I will tell you that we have no quorums, and Esther knows that we are happy to write some letters and make some calls, because otherwise the issue does not exist. we're completely invisible. And so the call to action for us is to continue to put attention, to be very intentional. And I would say it's not only the corporate board, though we should absolutely focus that as a priority, but also elected office and making sure that Latinos are represented at all levels in elected office. Looking at the military, Latinos are 17% of all service members in the military. And I just challenge you to think about what Latino general names come to mind. We have to think about it. That means that we are massively underrepresented. Certainly, we're working currently with the Secretary of the Army to make sure that this is addressed, and working with the Department of Defense to make sure that Latinos are represented at all levels. But I also want you to think about your Board of Regents or your Board of Visitors in the university. If Latinos are 40% of the student body and you don't have one Latino represented, it is time that our students and our professors rise up and make that a challenge to the Board of Visitors. And please know that LULAC exists to protect and defend our community. And so if there is any form of retaliation or you feel fearful of speaking out, reach out to us, because we are absolutely delighted to make sure that we're calling out those players and institutions that are forgetting our Latino community, but absolutely profiting from the backs of our work in our community.
You got me hyped up, Sindy. So thank you so much for that. I was feeling some chills as you were talking there. Thank you for that. And for those that don't know, go to LULAC.org. You can find out more from a LULAC standpoint. Esther, love to hear some more of your thoughts on what can we do as we start thinking about getting more active from a corporate board perspective, both the pipeline of folks that are aspiring executives and those that know they have the ability and the capability, but just aren't being seen. What are some of your thoughts there?
Happy to share some of those perspectives some more, and some of the initiatives that we're taking on and the strategies that I share really are also meant to hopefully apply some of this to other key issues that impact our community. As you know, one of my past roles was CEO of the Congressional Hispanic Caucus Institute, where another important organization that is in great leadership hands, and we were helping to form and give leadership development opportunities for young people to work on Capitol Hill, to work in the public sector, the private sector, and really give them the tools to not only lead, but I would always tell our young people that this Capitol and the halls of Congress and of power are as much ours as anybody else's. In fact, again, as Sindy always points out, we are the second largest demographic in the nation. And we have a lot of great tools to prepare ourselves, a lot of great programs to help do that. Our numbers, our high school graduation and at least college entry is increasing. And so there is so many opportunities. The pipeline is important in every organization, in foundations and nonprofits, and certainly corporate America. So for the younger people, seize those opportunities on so many different areas. There's, I think that the talent is there. And then let's also team up to make sure on the corporate side that we're ensuring that the pipeline and the C-suite also represent Latino and Latinas. Our numbers are very, very low in C-suite levels. Latinas are, again, less than 3%, Latinas less than 1% in corporate C-suite roles. And then, of course, those similar numbers in the boardroom. So I think we haven't been in such a position to have a lot of the know-how and also some important strategies under our belt that we need to continue to do that. So we look forward to teaming up with others and welcome everyone to join us in this effort, because it needs to be a call of action from our own community to make ourselves make sure that Latino and Latinas are not left behind, because as we said, representation matters, especially at the decision-making tables.
And Damian, if I can just add, and I would be absolutely remiss if I didn't mention this, but I think it's also pointing out just how diverse our community is. You know, whether you are a sixth generation American and you were here before the Guadalupe Hidalgo Treaty, or before that Nuevo Mexico was New Mexico, or whether you're a new American, but also the fact that within the Latino community, the ethnicity, we have multiple races, and uplifting our Afro-Latino community is so important, and making sure that we represent the diversity of who we are. And the truth is that, you know, we have Latinos from all different backgrounds. We have Latinos who are sixth generation, and again, we're here before Texas was Texas, and it was Texas, and making sure that we ourselves are promoting and uplifting that diversity within our own communities, I think is so extremely important, because those nuances matter. And making sure that whether it's the D&I officer, the CEO, or the chairman of a company, that they understand the power and the abilities and what we bring to the table, being multicultural, being bilingual or multilingual at times, I think is critically important, because at the end of the day, it does impact the bottom line, the return on investment of these multiple corporations across the country that, again, profit and market to the Latino community.
Yes.
That amazing. And so as we close out, we're running out of time. I'm not sure if there's any last words you'd like to give. You guys have both already given so much knowledge to the folks that are watching. Thank you so much for that. I'll let you see if there's any final words you want to throw out there.
Damian, the only thing I would just close for my side is that, you know, seek out opportunities, talk to others. We can't wait for people to invite us to the tables or invite us to, you know, take on new or bigger roles. Look for mentors. You have so much talent to contribute. In fact, precisely to Cindy's point, our rich cultural backgrounds and make us very adaptable and very, you know, we're goal-oriented, and we strive for excellence. So use that to your advantage and know your worth, know how much you bring to the table.
And Damian, I would just say that, you know, sometimes what we think is logic to us may not be logic to other. And the example that I have is when we saw SB 826 pass in California, which mandated that there be more inclusion of women on corporate boards. In a state like California, where it's almost 40% Latino, of the 511 seats, only 17 seats went to Latinas. And then, you know, we had to keep the pressure on and now have State Bill 979 that calls for at least one minority to be on these corporate boards. Again, we have to look at this in a very multifaceted way. You know, what can we do as consumers? What can we do as individuals within companies? What can we do as organizations? What can we do as the 60 million strong that we are and the 130 million strong that we will be, and putting pressure? And again, if we are silent, there will be no movement. So it will take all of us in this effort to call to action, but also make sure that folks, whether it's corporations or whether it's elected officials, understand that we are paying attention and that we will absolutely hold them accountable. Accountability is a big portion of this. And the truth is, again, my hashtag is we can't be what we can't see, although we have seen movement there, and making sure that there's nothing about us without us, right? The truth is we are a major part of this economic engine, and that these companies actually profit from our community and market to us. And so absolutely demanding that we have representation is absolutely something that we have to keep our focus and priority on.
Well, thank you both so much. I think everybody can understand now why I was so excited to have you guys over here. You are two leaders that I admire greatly. Thank you, Esther, Cindy. If anybody wants to learn more about any of the organizations, LatinoCorporateDirectors.org or LULAC.org to find out more. Stay active. If nothing without, say that one more time, Cindy. It was nothing
about us without us.
Nothing about us without us. Thank you so much. Hope everybody enjoyed. Y'all have a good rest of the day.